Destyn Hill injury out for spring. This was already a critical camp for a ton of receivers, so it's an easy question to ask. Who just got a lifeline at wide receiver for a chance to win serious reps in the fall now that Destyn Hill is unavailable for at least the rest of the spring?
Jalen Brown, right? Isn't that his name? Brown, the kid from LSU? He's looked good to me. I've talked about him a little bit before. He had a good day yesterday. He had a long touchdown reception, and that speed plays. Really, it's the theme. It's the overriding theme. You know, you can tell from what Corey writes up, what I write up, what Ira's written up, when you went out to practice and saw it. Speed's really the overriding theme of this camp that differs from last year's camp. Experience was the code word, keyword last year. You had so much experience, so many veterans in so many places that were poised to have their biggest years. And so when we would talk about practice, we would talk about how efficient it was, how succinct it was, how everybody knew what to do, all these veterans. Now, every day we get done with practice, we talk about the speed because it's what stands out the most. There's so much of it, so much more of it. And he is one of the reasons why. And I think he's got a chance to play more now because of the Destyn Hill injury. Look, we don't know ultimately how long Destyn Hill is going to be out. But, yeah, I think he's going to get some opportunities. Let's just put it.
That's the thing is these reps matter greatly. The next 3 weeks matter in a huge way as to what that board looks like, what that two deep looks like, and who stays and who goes. Now, what's interesting to me is Jalen Brown I would not perceive to be in any danger of transferring because you don't come here as young as he is without a plan, a multi-year plan to stay at Florida State and see what happens. But you have brought him up a lot, and that's a player I really haven't seen much of at all. Like, I can't even remember from the day I was at practice something that Jalen Brown did to stand out. Like, LaWayne McCoy did a couple of things.
He's still doing a couple things. He's a good player.
If you can indulge me as I act like the conduit to the fans who haven't seen him, how would you compare Jalen Brown from a body type standpoint, skill set standpoint, to maybe some guys we've had the last couple of years?
Well, he's skinny and he's fast. That's the first thing that stands out. He's very fast, but he's not big. You know, he's not a big guy. He's, you know, what is he, 6'1", 6 feet tall? Like, he's not short, but it's not like.
Does he have like a Rashad Green build?
Yeah. He's a little bit more. I think he's a little bit more muscular than Rashad Green was. Rashad Green was weird because when you saw Rashad Green, you just thought nothing. Like, you didn't think anything of him the first time you ever looked at him. And then you watched him play and you went, ooh, he's silky smooth and awesome. Yeah. But it was like you would have never guessed it. Like, if you were walking down the hallways and Rashad Green walked by, you'd be like, whatever. You wouldn't think he was on the football team. You wouldn't think anything of him.
No, you would have looked at Rashad Green and Christian Green and said, well, Christian Green is clearly the 1,000-yard receiver, not Rashad.
Right. Yeah, that's why it matters how you play, not how you look. And he was unbelievable in and out of his breaks. First day we ever saw him, we were like, oh, that is different. Brown's number one attribute is speed. He caught a long pass yesterday, and it was really less about the route and more about the blazing speed and a really good throw. I will give you that, a really good throw from DJ. And this is where that arm strength comes into play and that speed comes into play. We're going to see some long touchdown passes this year. There just is no way around that. You're going to see some guys run away from DBs. And you got a guy who's got a massive arm. So it's almost like you say to him, you can't overthrow him. It's impossible. Just throw it as far as you can. They've got the speed to go get it.
So with Jalen, if I said, okay, in and out of his breaks, a polished route runner, hands, catching traffic, what do you like from what you've seen?
Speed. Okay. I'm just going to keep coming back to it. Speed. He's fast. He is polished. He is a polished receiver. He doesn't look like a work in progress. He looks like a ready-made player.
That's distinguishing from Deuce Spann, for example. That's interesting.
Right. Nobody has ever looked better in a uniform at wide receiver in the history of Florida State football than Deuce Spann. He literally, and we've had some unreal players at wide receiver. Maybe Kelvin Benjamin looked better because he looked like a freak. But, I mean, Deuce Spann, when you look at him, he's a gazelle. And you know, I know that it's used often to describe fast guys is that they're like gazelles. But part of the reason that people say that too is because gazelles are not only fast, but they're hoppy and they seem effortless, right? Deuceman has effortless speed. It's beautiful to watch. He just hasn't ever really learned how to play wide receiver. Although I think he's been fine in this camp. I think Deuce had a nice play yesterday on a crossing route where if you can free him up, it's unbelievable. But, not enough, I don't think, to crack the starting lineup or anything like that. I do think Jalen Brown's a much more polished receiver. Yeah.
Okay. So let me get to the veterans then, because we know that eligibility is short for a few players. Kentron, Deuce, Jakai's not going anywhere, so I think that he sticks, obviously, if his brother just came to play here. So he's in his final year, and he is what he is. But Kentron, Deuce Spann, Darion Williamson, who stood out to you through the practices you've seen so far?
You said Kentron, Darion Williamson, and who?
And Deuce.
Kentron is got the best upside of all those guys with a real opportunity to be a starter. Kentron, God, he looks the part, right? When you see Kentron's body type.
Well, they also put a video out, a short thing on FSU social media yesterday of him making a catch. It looked like a one-on-one drill, but he has the in-traffic ability. If we're looking for guys who have in-traffic proven ability, he's done it in games, but
he's a big body. It would have been a great catch, so I don't want to sully this too bad. There was a play yesterday. I won't get in trouble for this. There was a play yesterday, and he got behind the defender, and it's here we go. You could see it. It was almost like slow motion. I realized DJ had time to throw. They weren't getting to him, and in this particular play, and I was like, oh, let it happen. Let it happen. Let's go. And they were in the indoor practice facility, and it must have been 65 yards in the air. 65 yards in the air over his left shoulder. Defender was relatively close, but it's there, and it's getting towards the back of the end zone. And I think he was a little worried about because you're indoors.
Yeah.
I think he was a little worried about how much space he had, and he tried to catch it over his shoulder, and he didn't catch it. It went off his fingertips. He should have caught it, frankly. He'd probably say that. But, you're not playing indoors when you're playing in a game. So he would have been, probably a little bit less concerned about the wall creeping up on him. But, man, I thought, oh, you got to catch that, Kentron. But it was just cool to see he was open. It reminded me of the catches against Georgia.
Right.
It looked like one of those plays.
Well, and here's the thing. This is where player insights help, too, because as R.E.A. Thomas told you, that Kentron's one of the toughest covers on the team.
Well, he's big and strong, and that's the thing. He can run, but he's a big, strong kid. He's physical with his arms. Look, at the end of the day, Kentron just has to stay healthy.